How the heck are you doing this fine day? I am thrilled you are joining us, and welcome to Webinar Wednesday, which will begin in just a few moments. But before we begin, let me get a few administrative details out of the way so we don't have to clutter up the time during the actual webinar. First, this webinar is being recorded and it will be available in replay on both Facebook and on YouTube. We leave the replays available to you for 1 week after the webinar is broadcast, and then after that we take the webinars and we archive them for the purpose of our patrons. More on that in a few moments. Every week we host these free webinars. They are on topics around productivity, content creation, and a little bit in online marketing. They're available to you free of charge. However, we are a community-funded channel and we appreciate your support. And you can show your support in 3 ways. The first way is what you're doing right now, just being here, commenting, sharing it with others, being a part of our community. We appreciate that. But in a more practical sense, you can also support us through the Super Chat, which is available to those of you viewing on YouTube. You can always give us a tip if you find something incredibly valuable in what we share. But our main way that we support the Dottotech channel and Webinar Wednesday in particular is through the generosity of our Patreon community. If you drop by patreon.com/Dottotech, you can support us financially on a monthly basis here, keeping Webinar Wednesday on the air. But there are perks. Oh, indeed, there are some fantastic perks. The most important of which is we archive each and every one of these 2 webinars, and the entire catalog is available to our patrons. Now sit back and relax. We appreciate you being here, one and all, and today's webinar is going to be something special starting in just a few moments. Steve Dotto here. How the heck you doing this fine day? And welcome to our Webinar Wednesday. How are you doing, April? Oh, everybody's a little bit slow. Are you there with me?
Oh, so sorry. My mute button was on. Good. Happy Wednesday. I said welcome to everybody. Glad to be here. And I am hopeful today we have, I'm not even going to say it.
Yeah,
no, we're streaming. We're
streaming. We're there. I've got the feed going here. We're checking it out. How is everybody? It is great to see one and all today, as we're going to be continuing our journey towards just legendary productivity. That is our goal today. Now, you told me that you didn't really know, that you felt that some people don't know what the Pomodoro is, and that might have.
I do.
Are you concerned about that? Did you know what it was?
No, I had no idea what it was. I still don't really know. I looked a little bit online. And I'm looking forward to today to learn a little bit more, because I definitely could use additional time management helpful tips.
we can all. Well, today, we will all the Pomodoro will be completely revealed to all who might be a little bit confused. I think most of the people that are on with us know what's going on with it, but we're going to be talking about making more efficient use of time. We're kind of following a bit of a journey. A couple of weeks ago, we did a time audit with you folks. We talked about measuring what you do, and to determine, to make intelligent decisions on where we should be spending our time and where we can more effectively spend our time. And then last week we looked at something called calendar blocking or time blocking, which is organizing your day in chunks of time so that you aren't switching from task to task, so we can get into the flow state more, so we can concentrate more on getting more done. This week we we're niching down even farther. We're looking at what you do in each of those chunks of time, which are The most popular technique is called the Pomodoro. So we will be describing that to you in detail momentarily. But before we do, I have a couple of pieces of business to take care of. First of all, we are streaming to you today through the technology of Restream, who is our technology partner here and sponsor of Webinar Wednesday. We began live streaming this to multiple platforms. Some of you are on Facebook watching us. Some of you are on YouTube watching us. The magic that allows us to broadcast this webinar to both platforms is Restream, and we use Restream Studio as the basis for that technology. And if you are interested in live streaming, if you have even a slight inclination that you might want to live stream, you're going to want technology that makes it work for you. Restream is the partner that makes it work for us. So April's dropped a link, or is dropping a link in there where you can get more information on Restream. And our thanks to Restream for supporting this particular venture. The other people we have to thank are our patrons. Dottotech, this channel, is a community-funded channel. Now, every week we deliver a free tutorial webinar, Webinar Wednesday, and on Fridays we do another tutorial called Foundational Fridays, where we teach the basis of online marketing. And we do that. The reason we're able to do that is we've got a phenomenal Patreon community supporting us, crowdfunding us, and supporting us. And there are many patrons in the audience right now listening, so we thank you all so much for your support. Now, if you are interested in supporting us, if you do find value in Webinar Wednesday, then I encourage you to drop by our Patreon page, have a look, and perhaps jump on and become a supporter. There are perks. And the biggest perk is these tutorials that we deliver for free each week are available for 1 week for you to watch free, just like you're doing right now. But then we take those tutorials and we archive them for our patrons. And we have, how many we've got? This is Webinar Wednesday. Actually, graphic. I forgot to put it on graphic. It's Webinar 161. There it is. Webinar Wednesday 161. That's the number. So there's 161 of these tutorial webinars available now. So our thanks to all of our patrons. We appreciate you, and anybody that's considering, I think it's a wise investment in supporting Dottotech. Don't you agree, April?
I definitely agree. So thank you. And thank you for all of our patrons, and hugs, virtual hugs. And someday you'll get real hugs again.
Yes, indeed. I see a whole bunch of people saying, I'm a patron. Yes, we are. It's like, I am Spartacus. Thank you so much, folks. All right. So here's the plan as we move ahead. So I recorded a video. Typically speaking, here on Webinar Wednesday, we deliver the main training as a pre-recorded video. That way I can edit it, and I can make sure that we increase the information density, give you as much value as we can. While it's going on, any questions you have, post in the chat. You can help us out by putting a question mark before or the word question at the front of your questions, so we can identify questions as opposed to the comments, and we can pull them out. We'll answer as many as we can online while the video is running. But once we're on the other side of the video, we will answer as many live on air as we can until the top of the hour, until we are done. So I think that is pretty much it. We've got everything set. I've got the technology loaded. April has her new do. By the way, it looks great, April. April got it. When did you get your haircut?
An hour ago.
It looks phenomenal. I need it. I'm feeling it. And you know who's the worst? Is that boy back there, Farley. He looks like a fur ball. He's getting his time next week. He's got the worst COVID hair of all. Sorry?
Are your barber's open there in Canada, right?
Yeah. They can't do the beard though. You've got the mask on. They're not allowed to trim the beard, so I've got to do my beard myself, and it's...
I was wondering what was going on with that. No, I'm just kidding.
Yeah, it's hard to freehand your beard once it's this length here. You rely on others. So anyway, that's really first world problem.
Yes,
it's not that big a deal compared to everything else going on. So let's get to it. We're going to explore the Pomodoro, which is the third in our series of 4 of these webinars. Next week, we'll wrap things up with the Kanban, which I will explain to you once we are done. I think it's time to go. So we will see you on the other side of today's video. And I tell you, I think I've learned an awful lot in prepping these so far 3 webinars. The first time audit webinar, then the time blocking, and now mastering the Pomodoro. And one thing which I've learned, which I'm going to encourage you to pay attention to, is there is no hard and fast rules. With everything that we are teaching, with everything that we're showing, you have to take what we're showing you and use it as a template. and take your own personal productivity system, your needs, the uniqueness of your situation, and the tools you use and the tasks at hand, and apply some of these techniques to what you're doing. There is no like absolute perfect system that you put in place. You are going to build your own system. So having said that, what have we got coming up for you today? We're going to talk about the whole concept of a Pomodoro, just so that we understand the basic philosophy. And it's more a philosophy than anything else. We're going to make sure we do that and understand what the basic Pomodoro is. The vanilla, boring, not too fancy Pomodoro that you can start with, but I'm sure you are going to modify. Then we're going to riff on the theme. How are we going to take the Pomodoro, the concept of the Pomodoro, Okay, I'm coming back on. For some reason, the video's not playing. So let me try it again. I am not too sure what happened. So we've got the background showing. Okay, I'm going to reopen the video and give it a shot again. It was playing here on my computer. So let's see. We'll try it again. I got to tell you, I think I've learned an awful lot in prepping these so far 3 webinars. The first time audit webinar, then the time blocking, and now mastering the Pomodoro. And one thing which I've learned, which I'm going to encourage you to pay attention to, is there is no hard and fast rules. With everything that we are teaching, with everything that we're showing, you have to take what we're showing you and use it as a template, and take your own personal productivity system, your needs, the uniqueness of your situation, and the tools you use and the tasks at hand, and apply some of these techniques to what you're doing. There is no like absolute perfect system that you put in place. You are going to build your own system. So having said that, what have we got coming up for you today? We're going to talk about the whole concept of a Pomodoro, just so that we understand the basic philosophy. And it's more a philosophy than anything else. We're going to make sure we do that and understand what the basic Pomodoro is. The vanilla, boring, not too fancy Pomodoro that you can start with, but I'm sure you are going to modify. Then we're going to riff on the theme. How are we going to take the Pomodoro, the concept of the Pomodoro, which I'm going to tell you really works, and then modify that for your own purposes. We'll look at another technique, a very similar technique called flow time, which overcomes some of the limitations. Then we'll dive into the tools, and we'll spend a little bit more time in tools today, because there's a lot of different tools that will help you with the Pomodoro. And then finally, I'm going to hammer home the setting yourself up for success, the things that I think you need to do if you are going to be successful in using these techniques that we're talking about. So let's start with the Pomodoro. It was invented basically based on a kitchen timer, on the kitchen timer that looked like a tomato. It's an egg timer. They built the system around sprints and rests. 25 minutes focused work, 5-minute rest. 25 minutes focused work, 5-minute rest. 25 minutes focused work, 5-minute rest. 25 minutes of focused work followed by a 10, 15, 20, 30-minute break. And those were the Pomodoros that you did. So you had these blocks of time that were about 2 hours long that you concentrated and you focused for a goodly part of that time, and you worked your way through your list of tasks to do, and you stayed on point. Then when you hit the break, you could go get a coffee, you could stretch your legs, you could clear your mind so that you could rededicate yourself to focusing. Now, all of the reports that I read say that it takes you a few days to kind of get into the rhythm of doing the Pomodoros so that it becomes a bit of a habit, and it takes a week or more before it really gets entrenched. And one of the strengths of the Pomodoro, I think, for that we can all recognize right out of the gate, is that it's really helpful in helping you do the tasks that you find kind of boring, that are repetitive, that you don't like to do, because unlike the normal way of looking at a chore that you have to do that you don't want to do, the end in sight is not necessarily the end of the chore, but it's the end of the time. It's time-based. You only have to do it till this point, and then you can stop. And that is the key. Now, that's also a weakness of it, which we'll talk about in a few moments. But by focusing it on these chunks of time, it means that you've kind of gamified it to a certain extent, but you make it easier for you to focus on it, because I can do this for 25. I can do I can do accounting for 25 minutes. You can tell yourself you can do that, and then you can do it for 25 minutes. Whereas if you say, I have to balance my books, that seems like a daunting task. 25 minutes, we can handle. So in order to make the Pomodoro really work, as far as I can tell from what everybody says, there's a kind of 3 points of success that you need to have. First of all, is you can't just start with not knowing what you want to do. You have to know what your tasks are. So you have to have articulated and designed, written down somewhere, the tasks that you are going to have to complete or that you want to complete. Another real key, and we will be talking about some tools to help with this later, is you have to eliminate distractions. We set ourselves up for failure if we don't eliminate the distractions when we go to do this type of work. If we are willing to check our email, if we're willing to bounce out of the focus that we're on, we are setting ourselves up for failure. And sometimes it's ourselves. We get stuck, so we say, I wonder what's happening in Facebook, and you jump over. That's self-inflicted. But all of us now are getting notifications on our computers, from our calendar, from our phone. We're getting tons of distractions, even from the Amazon delivery guy showing up downstairs. There's lots of things that pull you off task. The more of those that you can eliminate, the better off you are if you really want to get to doing your best work and to be more productive. So finding a way to eliminate distractions. And you got to stick to the plan. You can't say, I'm going to do the Pomodoro and then go through one 25-minute cycle and then that's it each day. It's like saying, I'm going to stick to a diet, eating a piece of celery and then going, that hamburger looks good, and then just going over to the hamburger. And then tomorrow, back a piece of celery starts the day. That's not the way that it works. You have to stick to the plan and stay with it all the way through. So one of the things that I really was intrigued by is there doesn't seem to be a hard and fast rule for how you plan what you do within the Pomodoros, within each time segment. I was hoping that I would have an epiphany with that when we went through the calendar blocking training last week, but there are a lot of ways to approach it, as I said right off the top. It seems to me that there's 3 basic ways that we can approach each chunk of time. Now, we're saying Pomodoros right now, but later on we'll be talking about expanding that time so we can stay in the flow state and we can get more work done. So the 3 ways that you can articulate your tasks, what you want to get accomplished within this fixed time block, is you can have a task list. You can just have a to-do list that you can go through and you can check off. There could be no times attached to it. It can just be, do this task, write this email, do that. And then you can work your way through on a checklist. And once your 25 minutes are up, if you got 3 things done, great. If you got 5 things done, better. So you can do it that way. The second thing you can do is you can apply a theme. You can say, for this first 4 Pomodoros of the day, I am going to write. And you can set it up themed like that. You can also mix. You can have this Pomodoro is going to be dealing with tasks. This is going to be focused on theme-based work. And then there's also the unitask concept, where you say, I am going to write this email to this client in this time because it's a really important email, and I'm going to write it, and I'm going to be focused on that task and that task alone. You can unitask if you want, which is great if you have large enough chunks of work to do on a single task that you can get hyper-focused on the task. Again, more on that in a moment. Now, the challenge, of course, and the problem with this, we all see it right away, is 25 minutes is a pretty short period of time. That flies. If you've got a lot of work to do, if you've got a big project, 25 minutes barely dents it. And for most of us, we're just getting going in 25 minutes if we're focused on a task, because that will relate to where we stand in the flow state. The flow state is that state of concentration where you're in the zone, where you're focused and concentrating on your work. Time flies. It seems that more of your synapses are firing all in the right direction, and you get more done with more clarity of thought. It's what we desire. And I've got some I shared these last week with you, but I've got these links here that talk about getting into the flow state more efficiently. I'm not going to recover that, but I'm going to share it with you in this week's note again, because getting into the flow state ultimately is it has to happen if we're going to do better, higher quality, and more work in these time blocks. And that's the nature of it. The nature of focusing on a single task or focusing and concentrating for a period of time on a time block, it's almost wasted if we don't attempt to get into the best state, the best mental state to get our work done within that task by eliminating distraction, by doing all these hard things that we have to do. We want to really benefit from it. So getting into the flow state is the goal. So 25 minutes, it's a lot of work getting into the flow state for 25 minutes. There's a lot of foreplay. You want to really, we want to be in there longer. So one of the things that we look for is how can we modify the Pomodoro? Respect the things that work in the Pomodoro with fixed time blocks and rests and all of the rewards that come with that. How can we make that work better if we want to concentrate on larger and more meaty tasks? So there's, again, lots of them out there. Two that really caught my attention, and one is, and there's research on them, and we'll share all of the links with you. One that they call the 52-17. I think that's a little bit too detailed, but you do 52 minutes of focused work, and then you take a 17-minute break. Based on studies, there's some software around it. That's what they say. So I think that's incredibly specific. The one that really intrigues me and may intrigue you are these things called ultradian rhythms. I hope I pronounced it correctly. They're based on sleep studies, on how our brain's natural cycles work and how we kind of go through these cyclical periods. And we tend to have, when we're sleeping, 90-minute chunks of time that our brain naturally flows from state to state in. And when they extended that into the workplace, allowing people to concentrate on tasks, they found that 90 minutes was the upper limit of what people could concentrate on. But it also, if you think about it, if you could concentrate, if you could get in the flow state for 60 or 70 or 80 minutes and be focused, how much work can you get done? That is the holy grail. So coming into these ultradian rhythms where you do 90 minutes of work, then you're going to want to take an extended break because you're going to have to reset and rebuild your energy. So those are kind of the themes that you can kind of riff off of when you look at the Pomodoros. And the tools and techniques that we're going to look at, well, you can tune the software, tune the timers, tune the distraction blockers for those time chunks and work with them. And I say play with them. Try them out and see what works best for you. And there might be a mixture in the day. You might be able to say, you know what, I can do an ultradian rhythm first thing in the morning when I'm really fresh, and then later on in the day I need to do it in smaller chunks, and I go to Pomodoros. There's no rules that you make your own rules as you go. I just want you to succeed. And I want you to find a system that helps you succeed. Now, based on these longer techniques, there's a fairly popular technique called flow time, which is basically taking on the concept of unitasking, concentrating on a single task, and just starting on that until you want to stop. I'm not such a big fan of the until you want to stop idea, but a lot of people, if you're more disciplined than I and more focused on completing tasks than I, it may well work for you. But it's more open-ended. There's some great articles where you can read through those techniques, which we'll be sharing with you as well. But the bottom line is all of these things add, because we've got these blocks of time and we're being timed, it adds this kind of gamification concept where we can work within, and we have a goal and an objective beyond the task objective. We have a time objective that we want to meet, which helps us get our tasks done. Now, let us talk about the technology, because there's a lot of pieces of tech that can work, and there's a lot of different tools that will fit together to make this all work. Of course, you can start with a manual timer should you want to. You can get the Pomodoro timers that you can buy. You can use an egg timer. You can use a timer on your phone. There's a lot of timers that you can just use. You can use ones that are designed for fitness, for workouts, for HIIT type workouts. You could use those sorts of timers to help you out. But we're going to look at ones that are more specifically built for this particular task. Now, sometimes it can be as simple as when I'm using Focus at Will, I will often, let me just jump over to Focus at Will here and show you, I will often set the timer here for whatever period of time I plan on work. Now, Focus at Will is a distraction elimination app. It's a music app that when it plays, I typically will put headphones on, and it cocoons me. It eliminates external distractions. I can't hear family talking on TV. I can't hear stuff that's going on outside. The world gets very small, and it becomes really the task at hand. I love Focus at Will. There's a very similar product called Brain FM, where you can set the timer for each task. So if you use the timer, it will then, that you will not get lost and never come out. You will, after 60 minutes, it will end, and then you can take a deep breath. It also means that you can stay focused until the music is done. Works tremendously well. So that's the simplest way of using a timer for this, is one that's built into an app or using it on your phone. I will show you timers as we get into some of the other apps and some of the other tools as we look at some of the ones that are more specifically designed for the Pomodoro. But along with timers, you want to find tools that eliminate distractions on the outside. So some will proactively eliminate distractions, like the music app. Other ones will block you from getting from distractions. They will block your notifications coming in, and some of them, if you're not trustworthy, will even not allow you to go into things like Facebook or Instagram until the timing is up. It's like a parental lock because we aren't responsible enough. I'm not a particularly huge fan of those, but there are several different, especially website blockers, that do that. One is called Just Focus, which will block things off. And another one that I've installed here, and I will show you, is called Dayboard. And now Dayboard has been around for a long time. They haven't updated it in a while, which concerns me. But let me show you what happens with Dayboard. Dayboard does two things. One of them is it's a very simple task planner. So what happens is when you create a new tab, when you open a new tab, this is a Chrome extension that plugs in. When you create a new tab, what it comes up with is this. It comes up with, instead of going to a home page or to Google, it comes up with the Dayboard interface, it asks you what your 5 most important tasks are. And at the start of the day, you type this in. You say, these are the things that I want to get done today. And you actually type them all in. And then as you do them, you check them off. So every time you go to a new tab, especially if you're like going to go to Facebook or something, and you go, I'm going to go to Facebook, and you open a new tab, the first thing you see is, what are my responsibilities? What haven't I got done that was on my checklist? I like that idea. Now within this as well, if we go into the settings, I believe, you can tell it here which sites you want to be blocked for what time. These are the parental controls that you can install. This might be a good thing for you if you, as I say, if you don't have the discipline not to go to those sites. This might be a very good thing for you to do. And you can, of course, set how much time you have. You can set what days, etc. So this is one called Dayboard, which we will have a link to in the shared note. Now, another app that I have found, am I up to that other app? Let me make sure. Oh, we mentioned Rescue Time a couple of weeks, 2 weeks ago, 3 weeks ago, when we showed you when we did the time audit. It's the app that runs in the background, constantly monitoring what you do during the day, and then it gives you a report. Now let me open my Rescue Time dashboard here. Now the Rescue Time free version just goes through basically and tracks what you do each day and lets you know about your productivity. Really useful in our time audit. But if you go to the premium version of it, which is about $12 a month, I believe, it has a variety of other features attached to it, including the ability for you to turn off distractions during your productive time. It allows you to hopefully then staying more focused on your goals. So that's one of the things that the premium version does, is it will add this distraction blocking. So if you really like the time auditing features that Rescue Time gives, then it's well worth considering using it for blocking distractions at the same time. Now that brings us to, what about other apps? Now certainly we will end up using our task and to-do list managers. They have to find a place within this infrastructure. But I looked for some timers that could work with our checklist. So rather than just having a clock and a timer, which you can install, there's a variety of them that you can install right in your browser or right on your phone that are going to, of course, do the timing for you. But the one that I caught my eye is this one here, which is called Focus to Do. And I bought it for $8 for a lifetime license. I think it's a lifetime license. And I like some of the things that it has and the flexibility. And I think it's worth sharing with you. So what happens with it is it either installs, if I show it to you, here it is here. So here it is open. I'm actually running the app here, but the app is identical to the browser extension. If we go in and we take a look at the About page, it runs on iOS, Android, Windows, Mac, and it has a Chrome extension. So this really hits for any of us to use. Now what happens here is it gives us tasks that we are going to do today, tomorrow, upcoming, and someday, which I will talk about in a moment, and then allows you to set different projects up. The tasks itself are based on Pomodoros. So when I put in a new task, I put in the new task here, and I don't love this about it, but I respect why they are doing it this way. You set a new task, and then you choose how many segments it's going to take, how many 25-minute segments it's going to take. So if this new task is going to take 2 25-minute segments to take, you just do a guesstimate at the beginning, and then you hit enter. Here's the cool thing. It then calculates how much time you are committed to today to get all of the tasks done that you've put in. And you can go into these tasks and you can modify them. You can say, you know what, it's not actually due today, it's going to be due tomorrow, and then it will change the responsibility from today and move it into tomorrow. So you can see how much time you have committed then. Now, the unfortunate part of this is this doesn't integrate with Todoist or Asana or any other. So you're going to be doing some dual entry of tasks if you're putting them into a task manager, if you're going to put them into your Pomodoro timer here that we have set up. So recognize that that's a limitation, but perhaps the other things that it brings to the table are going to make it worthwhile. Beyond the fact that now we have all of our tasks listed out, we have the timer down here at the bottom, but we don't have to stay in the classic Pomodoro timer. We can set this up for our own rhythms. So we can set this up for 90 minutes, should we choose. Let's keep going over the 90 minutes. There we go. We could set it up for 90 minutes with longer breaks in between with whatever break time we want. So you have that option with this as well. Plus, one of the things that I really liked about this is this ability here to be able to classify your projects so that you can say that for a course that we're putting together for Patreon, there's the different tasks that are attached. So you can set it up that way. Plus, you can also set up a daily routine, which I'll be talking about more in a moment. But you can set up recurring tasks. So I have my review and prep, which we'll be talking about, my morning and afternoon email. My morning email, I give myself 2 Pomodoros. I'm giving myself 50 minutes for. And my afternoon email, I'm giving myself 25 minutes for. That's it. As far as email goes, I've set it up. Now, it doesn't have the flexibility of changing the different legs of Pomodoros based on the tasks. You have a fixed number. See, when I changed it to 90 minutes, it's set for 90 minutes. But this is an $8 app, folks. I guess I got it at 50% off, which I'm sure you will as well if you decide that you want to buy it. It's free to try. I like it. I like it because I'm going to show you how I think it will work really well when we get to the end of the day. Before I wrap things up, before I get to what I think is the most important keys to setting up and mastering these Pomodoros, I'm going to share a video in the note. It's something called a caffeine nap. I never heard of it before. Have you heard of it? I never heard of a caffeine nap before. But being a coffee aficionado, I love the idea. Here's what they say, and there's some studies, not a lot of studies, so this is urban myth as much as it is science. But if you drink a coffee, it will make you alert. But it takes about 20 minutes for the caffeine to get into your system. If you bang a coffee, shotgun a coffee, then take a nap, and take a 20-minute nap, what it does is it clears out all of the different chemicals in your brain that are making you drowsy because they release when you're napping. And then the caffeine gives you the energy. The caffeine is actually acts as a blocker for those things. So you end up with really a clear head when you're done and able to focus on tasks moving ahead. Now, I'm not sure this is a problem for everybody, but I have increasingly felt myself that I need a nap every day now. Maybe it's being my age that I am and all of the gray hairs. But I hate coming out of it feeling lethargic. This might be a way that I can come out and have maybe a second 90-minute ultradian rhythm in the afternoon, which would just turbocharge my productivity. So that's something I'm going to just suggest that you have a look at. I'm not saying you have to do it. I'm just going to suggest it, that you have a look. So let's get to the payoff now. What do you need to pay attention to? What's the important things to set yourself up for success? Going over the content that we've gone over in the previous 2 webinars, making sure that you're concentrating on the right things, doing a time audit, and then figuring out a way of dedicating your time so that you're working on the most important tasks and you have it defined and blocked out to work on. Those are very important. But increasingly, as I've gone through this, I think the most important single habit that if I can get you to consider doing is to do the end of day planning for tomorrow, taking 15, 20, 25 minutes and planning out what you're going to do tomorrow. And let me show you how this might look and why this can be so very powerful. Sorry, as I was about to record that, I had a knock on the door. And now he's trying to dig himself a hole in his bed. I don't know if I just laid out. Oh, good. He's laid down. Unwanted distractions. All right. So I'm going to show you now why I think it's important to plan at the end of the day, which also overcomes one of the limitations of the tools that we've been looking at. I mentioned that there's no elegant way to integrate Task Manager like Todoist or Asana or Remember the Milk or any of those task managers with a timer that we have like Focus To Do. That there's no way to automatically transfer our tasks across. And I think that's probably a good thing because I like the idea of us doing an audit of what tomorrow looks like and planning it out in advance. Now, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, we have to make it a 2-step process. So we have to duplicate some tasks with this system. There isn't any elegant way to migrate our tasks from our calendar, from our existing calendar, or from our to-do list into a task timing app like Focus To Do. So we have to manually make the entries in order to plan, in order to use the timer. And that might be seen as a limitation, but actually, the more that I think about it, the more valuable I think that might be. I don't think it's a limitation at all because I'm such a fan of this concept of taking time at the end of the day to plan out tomorrow. So this gives us a task to do during that time to make sure that all of the different tasks that we have been coalesced from all of the different places they might be floating around, and they're actually in our plan for tomorrow. They've actually made it onto our calendar for tomorrow, and they are in our task timer. So let me show you how that might look. So here I am today. Right now today, you can see that I've actually got about 8 hours of work that I had planned for today, including recording this webinar and etc., all planned out today. If I look here, I can see that tomorrow I actually have almost 3 hours already planned, already dedicated. Now I don't see it in my calendar here, but I have it in my task manager. That is because I was able to set up, for example, I put this daily routine in. I've got my email in it already. So I can have that now. I can add that as a calendar block in here saying I'm going to do my email from this time here. I'm going to make this my email time so that what I can do is I can just basically create a correlation between what's happening in my calendar and my task timer, moving stuff back, making sure that it's duplicated in both places. My afternoon review and prep, I'm going to do, say, if I know I have to cook dinner tomorrow, I might do that earlier at 3 or 3:30 in the afternoon. If I know I don't have to cook dinner, which I don't think I have to do tomorrow, I can make this at 4:30. I'll say review and prep. So what I'm doing, and I could actually probably, you know what, you could color code everything so that the colors here match the colors over here. You could get pretty darn fancy. So now all I need to do is go through and make sure that all of the tasks have been collected from all of the different places they may live, and they've been placed in the task timer for me to do tomorrow. And I will then be secure in the knowledge of what's expected of me in the day. And because it estimates how much time it's going to take, I'll have a realistic view that I can indeed accomplish everything that I've set out for that day. I believe this gives us a tremendous amount of control over our time. And as I say, sets us up for success. You know, this might not be the most elegant process as far as automation is concerned, but this gives you real control over what you're going to be doing at any point during the day. And it gets you focused. It gets you centered on seeing what you've done today. So you get the reward of seeing all the tasks that you've done today and knowing that you met your goals and objectives for today and that nothing's going to slip through the cracks, and you know what's expected of you tomorrow and for the rest of the week. This is a technique that may work well. If not, you're going to figure out your own rhythm and you're going to find out your own tools that are going to work best for you. Now I am looking forward to the Q&A. Okay. Slight technical glitch on the way in, but we managed to get through it all and it seemed fine. That was a lot of work. How are you doing, April?
It was good. It was good. It was very thorough. Very thorough.
Well, what I'm liking is the people are offering better suggestions and more experienced suggestions than I. But I also realize one thing. I don't believe I've ever mentioned anything for anybody to do that has gotten as much response as talking about napping.
I know. Nappuccino, somebody said. I loved it.
Nappuccino, that was a great term. But and a lot of people have, now I have never tried the coffee and the nap, but some people have mentioned that they did and they love it, and it works. So there you go.
I'm always in awe of people that can nap, because I have to be extremely tired to nap or not feeling well to nap. Like, I never nap. I just can't.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, well, it's sad for you.
It's a gift. I feel like it's a gift for many.
I might have told this story before, but I have to share it because I didn't used to be able to nap, but we used to make fun of my dad because at every family event, he would sit down and he would fall asleep and would say, "Dad, you know, we're talking here." And he goes, "I'm just resting my eyes." But he'd be snoring while he was resting his eyes. That was his thing. "I'm just resting my eyes." And we used to mock him mercilessly for it, to the point that when my brother had his son, Jacob, when Jacob was born at Christmas, I remember we said, we were getting ready for Christmas dinner, and Jacob had his bath, and he was that newborn baby size with the good smell, you know, like when they're like 3-4 months old and they're just awesome. And we said, "Here, Dad, why don't you give Jacob his bottle and we'll sit here and we will, you know, and then you can take care of him while we're getting ready for dinner." Well, we turn around about 5 minutes later, and there's my dad sound asleep with Jacob looking around. So Dad fell asleep, but he was supposed to put Jacob to sleep, and Jacob was rolling. Anyways, that was a better story in my head. I'm not sure. but the point is, the payoff is, after my dad died, I started to be the one that falls asleep at family dinners, and I've taken over. It's like he bequeathed the napping to me. And so now my kids make fun of me, and I have to bite my tongue so it's just to say, "I'm just resting my eyes," because that's what I want to say.
That's funny.
Anyway, that's the story. Just quick. So let's. I know that there's a lot of people have been asking questions about the shared note, etc. So let me just fill everybody in on what's happening here. Every week, there was a question if we do these webinars every week. Yes, we do these webinars almost every week. The odd week we will take off, but these tutorials are free each and every week. They're available to you watch and replay for a week after. You will get the shared note immediately after the webinar if you registered for this live stream, and if you didn't just come in through social. So April will drop the link to make sure you register, so we have your email address so that we can send you the shared note. So there is that. And then if you want to see this replay, or some people were asking about some of the other videos, they are all archived and they're there for our patrons. So we are supported through Patreon. So if you drop by our Patreon page, you can see what's involved in supporting Dottotech. But there are now 161 of these webinar Wednesdays in the Webinar Wednesday archives at Patreon, along with any notes or any of the other additional content that we created for them. So I, first of all, want to thank all of our patrons, but also encourage you to give us some support by jumping on and supporting us at Patreon. We appreciate it, and you guys keep us going. That is for sure. And I saw many nice comments from the patrons saying they value it, and believe me, that value goes both ways. Also, we are sponsored today by our partners at Restream, who is the technology that's allowing us to broadcast into multiple platforms at the same time here on our live streams, and they are at Restream.io. We're actually using the Restream studio that allows us to pull it all together and do that broadcast. So if you are interested in live streaming, Restream is the place that you want to start that journey. Okay, so now we've got questions.
We do.
We have 15 minutes for questions. Good stuff.
Okay. So the first question is from Lisa. When you have meetings that you have to attend that are longer than a Pomodoro time, how does that work? Does the rest of the day get split into Pomodoros?
You know, I think what you're doing is people think that you have to have every block filled with Pomodoros and everything has to fit nicely in these 25-minute increments. That will drive you crazy trying to fit everything in. If a meeting goes longer, then you just start. If you had planned on doing a series of, say, 4 or 5 or 6 Pomodoros later in the day in order to get some tasks done, you just start them later in the day. You don't have to have your entire day divided that way. That would be OCD hell if you had to fit everything into these time slots. So the concept is, perhaps you have a team meeting in the first thing in the morning, and you think it's going to end in about 35 minutes, but it goes longer. It goes 55 minutes. Once it's done, if you had an hour's worth of Pomodoros where you were going to go through your tasks, you just start that and you start the timer at that time. So it's based on when you start, not based on the time in the calendar. I hope that makes sense.
I saw somebody who mentioned in the chat that if they run late, they change they're very strict about their time gap. I'm going to find that comment because I was like, go ahead. I mean, of course it's self-discipline, right? But I was like, wow. I was like, is that what happens? Like you have to change your whole day based on that 20 minutes.
I said this right off the top, and I'm going to reiterate it. Understanding the principles and then fitting it in on your own system is the key here. I don't have any rules of the ways you should do things. What we've been trying to do with this series of webinars is talk to you about the way that productivity experts and people that study it find that we can be more productive by classifying our work or by taking on these different habits. And the Pomodoro is all about focusing on the tasks at hand and not allowing yourself to be distracted when you're working on those tasks. Some people have the discipline to be able to do that, and they don't need external timers or rewards like going through the checklists. Others of us need more discipline, and a lot of us just have never really thought about it. And now a lot of us have never really thought about how much time we lose by changing channels all the time and changing tracks. And that's why we started with the time audit. When you think about where you spend time and start to recognize that you can recapture so much time by taking control of your day and ultimately being more productive and doing better work by getting into the flow state more often. And we do that by time blocking and using some sort of Pomodoro type technique for focusing on the tasks, the deep work when we're doing it.
All right. So Andrew's asking, I have a concern about rescue time and other applications. I want access to all of my applications to collect this information, how to protect my privacy, which that's always a concern, right?
We covered that when we showcased a couple of weeks ago when we did the webinar on doing a time audit, and they have a very detailed privacy policy, which is front and foremost within Rescue Time, talking about where they use the data and how they use the data. But effectively, you're the only one that can see what applications you use, or if you've got a team version, your company can. But they don't go to the detail of if it says that you are if you're, say, browsing the web, if you're on Facebook, it's not showing the posts that you're engaged in or anything else. It's just showing that you were in this application at that time or on this site. They don't know any more details, but they do have a very, what I would say, aggressive privacy policy, recognizing that a lot of people would be very uncomfortable.
All right. John is asking, any suggestions for a Pomodoro timer that integrates with Evernote?
Yes, with Evernote. And we had a comment. I don't know who's mentioned it, but Pomadon app? Pomadon app?
Oh, right. Yeah, that's I see your note here.
Yeah, yep, I wrote it down, and I wrote that down to make a note of it to check it out myself later. But apparently it integrates with Todoist and Trello very nicely.
Can you recommend a good Pomodoro timer that is Safari friendly and also iPad friendly?
I just do an app search. There's a tomato timer that goes into Chrome. The tool that I showed you, the what was it called, app. I've lost the name of it now. Let me just look it up here. Do I have it? Why didn't it install? I don't see it here. But I don't have one recommendation over another. There was one I used to, some people might share one that they've used, but there are probably 30 different apps. And so just finding one that you like the looks of and that you feel comfortable with how you invoke it. Typically, if you're talking about using the phone, when I set up timers on my phone, I use the distraction app. I always use either when I'm going into deep work, I always use either Focus at Will or Brain FM. And both of them you can set timers on. So I don't actually set the timer just for ding and ding, but I set it up with the music app. So I don't need an external timer. It's timed to the music that I have blocking and helping me focus. And even if I'm not wearing headphones, just having the music playing really does help me focus. But the muscle memory kind of has kicked in. So that's, I would encourage you to think about that as well. And I showed that a little bit in the demo.
Okay. Sorry, my internet is freaking out. Okay. Can you use Focus to do as a to-do app? Focus at Will, right? As a to-do app.
You can't use Focus at Will as a to-do app. No, because it's just the only variable you have there is the timer.
All right. Somebody mentioned Workflow you showed 3 weeks ago. Can you give a brief synopsis of the difference between it and Focus to Do?
Focus to Do is very basic. Focus to Do is just a very simple timer app where you put the appointments in and you check them off. But Workflowy is a far more detailed app. Quite a few people have mentioned it here. It's not one that I've used, so I can't speak about it. But from what I understand, it acts more as your central. You'd be using it as your task and your to-do list tool. The Focus to Do is a timer with some extra capabilities that you add to, but you wouldn't be using it as your main task manager.
Let's see. Kelly is asking, do any of these programs provide any kind of analytic or feedback about how well you did reaching your goals? I tend to need positive feedback. We all do.
There's a couple of things. Well, if you include Rescue Time, it doesn't matter because Rescue Time will be giving you feedback and it will tell you how productive you are at the end of the day. That is awesome. And you saw the screens that I shared. Those are my real-time screens. And so it's, you see 70, 80% productive, 90% productive. If that's the kind of positive reinforcement you want, Rescue Time, which is available for free, will be a good choice for you. Other ones, I'm not too sure what analytics they give you. As far as telling you about meeting your goals and objectives, perhaps somebody can comment, but a workaround for sure is using Rescue Time.
All right. Danielle's asking, you mentioned it is important to stick to the plan at the beginning. How can you be flexible and stick to the plan?
When I'm talking about sticking to the plan, I'm saying stay the course. And if you're going to use Pomodoros the way that you plan. And if you have to stop for some reason, and because your dog is throwing up on the carpet and it's a half an hour later when you can get back to work, you pick it up where you left off. The thing is, when I'm saying the people who don't stick to the plan are the ones that do exactly what I mentioned at the beginning, is they start out the day sit down, 25 minutes, do one Pomodoro, and then let the day go to hell in a handbasket and never get back to focusing on work, and they just scatter for the day. And it's as I say, it's like eating a stick of celery for a diet, and then following it up with a hamburger for lunch, and then the next day eating a stick of celery again to start the diet again. That's where you stop sticking to the plan. And because all of us work differently, your plan is going to look very different than my plan. And your path towards productivity is going to be at a different place. We're looking to improve. This isn't a net sum game. We don't get to a finish line. We improve and we get more efficient, and we feel better about what we do in the day, and we do better quality work. So we are a constant work in progress. Sticking to the plan means constantly working and improving. And when there's always going to be stuff that's going to interrupt the day. Yesterday, or right now, I'm trying to record, and I don't know if you can hear, but I can't do any videos later today because they're, unbeknownst to me, they're doing construction outside of my window and they're sawing concrete, which means that I can't record the video that I planned today. So now I have to adjust for tomorrow. But I'm still sticking to the plan. I'm still going to be working I'm still got a 2-hour block that I'll be concentrating on recording that video and making sure that it's done properly.
All right. How do I activate Rescue Time without a password?
I don't know what you're referring to. Rescue Time as a system level tool that is constantly monitoring everything you do. You have a password to sign into it when you sign up. So it's active all the time. It's always monitoring your activities.
All right. Let's see. Somebody actually asked if your background was a painting or a picture. Maybe you can tell a little bit of it. Yeah, exactly.
This one right there. There. That's a brand new painting that I got for Christmas. That's my friend. My friend did that. She's up in Kamloops, and she painted that. If you want to see, she sells her paintings. That's one of her paintings.
Yes, and
she also did a custom one for Shannon for Christmas. Sorry.
Yes. Yeah, I was going to say, and you gave a special gift.
Yes, she painted. Her name is Parm Armstrong, and she painted a special gift that I commissioned her to do a painting for my wife, which was awesome.
Very thoughtful. Okay, let's see. We're kind of at the end of the question. Somebody actually asked a little bit about. It says, "Are the webinar Wednesdays, Gray Matters, and Off and Other Pieces all on one site?" Which they're on Dottotech. Dottotech site.
So the entire Dottotech family of products is, we do Webinar Wednesday every week, which is this training and this tutorial that we do each week. And then we've started a new webinar that we do called Foundational Fridays, which teaches the basics of building of online marketing and content marketing. And that is Friday mornings, a few hours earlier than this webinar. And that's primarily, the content is delivered actually by April and Liz, and I host those webinars, but we teach basics. So this week, we're teaching you what a landing page is and how to create landing pages, which are part of the online marketing process. Then we have a couple of Facebook groups. Dottotech Facebook group supports what we're doing here. And then we also have one called the Gray Zone, which is dedicated to helping baby boomers and Gen Xers who want to be more relevant online, more comfortable online, and build online businesses. And a part of that community is we have a membership site called the Gray Wave, where we teach baby boomers and Gen Xers how to build full-on online businesses or build a side hustle with an eye to building an online business as a result of that. And then Gray Matters is our podcast, which supports that community as well. And you can find links to all of those at dottotech.com. Wow, it sounds like a lot when I explain it this way. How do we do it all, April?
I don't know. He works us like a dog, friends. 7 days a week.
There we go. It is sometimes, yes.
No, I think that's a wrap, actually.
Awesome. Coming up next week. Next week we are, now, and April says, if people didn't know what this was, they certainly aren't going to know what next week's is. No, next week's, that's not it. This one here, there it is. No, that's not. Where did it go?
The can.
Yeah. I must not have downloaded the proper image for it. Next week is the final of this journey of 4 productivity webinars that all relate to each other. And I'm calling it Can't Beat Kanban. Now, Kanban is a organizational and a task system which basically uses index cards and columns and moves them from one to the other. But again, it's a foundational piece that you can use that will make you ever so productive if you embrace it. And many pieces of software work based on the foundation and the principles of the Kanban system. So we're going to be tying it in as the last piece of this kind of 4-part series on really improving our productivity. The goal when we started this series is 2021 is already starting out to be a shit show, and we all are facing so many challenges. But if we can do something in the first quarter that we feel good about, that we can work towards and be positive, I think that starts the year off on a much better foot. And I don't want to remember 2021 the way I remember 2020. So improving my productivity and my productivity skills and my productivity habits is a good thing to do this year, and that's what I want to share with you, and I wish that for you as well. So that's what this 4-part series is all about. Next week is the final piece of that puzzle.
Yes, that was a really nice. Kelly had some. Thanks for the great session, Steve. Great reminder of how talented you are at providing plain language, practical, and affordable information. Glad to rediscover you in the new format. So,
well, thank you.
It's all worthwhile. We had so many smart people today sharing so many great things. They have. It's
the interaction from the community always blows me away, and it's really the thing I'm proudest of. I'm proud of the work that we do, but I'm proud of the people that we've attracted. I'm thrilled to be a part of this community. Yes. So that's it. April, thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Check your email. The shared note will be sent out to you immediately after. The new webinar will be available for registration tomorrow. Join us for Foundational Fridays if you want to learn about landing pages. Liz is very anxious because we already have some 500 people signed up. So let's get lots of people so she'll be super nervous. And we will see you all next week right here for Can't Beat the Kanban. April, thank you so much.
Thank you. Bye, guys.
Stay safe, take care, and till next time. Have fun storming a